Okay, so this appears to just be another Phantom. Why is this a premium? I don't really understand.
Damn, what is that, bro?
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the is that?
Hey mom, can we have a
No, we already have a at home.
the we have at home?
Wait a minute!
All jokes aside, the F-4S is a slightly better F-4J. In case you don't know, this aircraft is a new Rank 7 premium for the United States. It sits at a battle rating of 11.3, and quite honestly, this is perhaps the best Rank 7 premium currently in the game. And that's interesting, because this airframe in and of itself isn't actually all that special. It doesn't really have the capacity to really competitively dogfight other aircraft around this battle rating. It doesn't really have the good top speed. It doesn't really have great acceleration. The energy retention is kind of meh. Nothing about this airframe would tell you that it's a good plane. Now don't get me wrong, you can still dogfight using this plane and you can definitely still get plenty of gun kills, but that's usually either because you are fighting another Phantom that doesn't get wing slats, or because your opponent made a mistake somewhere and ended up in front of your guns.
Uh-oh. Stinky.
In essence, the F-4S is kind of just a middle-of-the-pack meh airplane. It doesn't perform that well in terms of its flight performance. But then why do I say it's a very good premium? Well, in essence, this aircraft is basically kind of like the A6E except at 11.3. Your flight performance may not be the best, but you do get an absolutely great set of weapons. And what does a great set of weapons look like? Well, in this case, it is a fantastic radar as well as some beautiful AM-7Fs. And maybe someone else will disagree with me, but personally I think that the AM-7F is perhaps the best radar missile at 11.3. Pair that with effectively the best radar at 11.3, and oh man, you've got yourself a very, very powerful aircraft. But you know, the MiG-23ML, you could buy that plane, and that plane has a good airframe as well as good missiles, and arguably a somewhat okay radar. Not really, but it's still serviceable. Why not buy the MiG-23ML instead? Because that seems like it's a better premium then. No? Well, not really. And here's why. I think that the F-4S is a perfect premium because it is effectively a perfect grinder. Not only is this aircraft very capable in air combat, it can also certainly be used as a bomber. And the reason that's interesting is because if you're grinding a full tech tree, everyone at some point is going to get a little bit tired of going for air kills, and you might want to bump some bases here and there. Now, I don't recommend that in an aircraft such as the F-5C, but the reason I think it's okay in the F-4S is because you can carry enough bombs to destroy a single base without really impacting your flight performance that much. And because the flight performance of this aircraft is already kind of meh, it's okay to make it a little bit more meh so you can get a couple extra points by destroying a base. Now, I understand there's probably going to be plenty of people in the comments section who disagree with that idea, but the reality is, when an aircraft allows you the opportunity to either grind with it using it as a fighter versus using it as a bomber, that's just something nice. It just gives you a bit more choice, and honestly, that's something that I think is very valuable when you're paying $70 for a premium plane. And I guess now that I've mentioned that price, it's time to talk about whether or not this aircraft is worth it, because I think it's a little bit tough. You see, on the one hand, I think this is a very good premium plane. I think I've made that very clear by now. But on the other hand, I don't really see a reason for people to buy this if they already have been grinding through the US tech tree for quite a while. Look, I know I kind of meme about it in the beginning of the video, but it's true. The F-4S is literally just a slightly upgraded F-4J. How is it different from the F-4J? Well, the F-4S gets wing slats, and to be completely fair, these wing slats are actually really a very nice and very welcome upgrade. They allow you to pull a lot more AOA than the standard F-4J can, but you know, it's still a Phantom, so it's not suddenly a very good dogfighter. Another thing that's different between the F-4S and the F-4J is the fact that the F-4S gets to carry the AIM-9H rather than the AIM-9G, so the IR missiles are different on the F-4S. What is different between the AIM-9G and the AIM-9H? Well, the AIM-9... oh yeah, and the F-4S gets ejection seats. So yeah, I'm pretty cool, I guess. In any case, I don't think these upgrades are worth $70. If you already own the F-4J, just buy a talisman for the F-4J. Don't go out of your way to buy the F-4S. But that said, if you are thinking about either buying the A6E or the F-4S, I would personally buy the F-4S because I think it's a better plane, it's certainly a more versatile plane, and I also think it's a more fun plane. Just don't buy this aircraft if you have already played the US a lot. I guess that's my main 2 cents here. So I've now told you what I personally think of the F-4S and whether or not I think it's worth your money. But how would I actually go about playing this jet? And I'm going to show you some footage now of me playing the F-4J, not the F-4S, because, well, I haven't actually bought the F-4S, and I think that's actually something I want to make very clear in this video. I haven't actually flown the F-4S. Why am I making a review about it? Well, because I have flown the F-4J a bunch. F-4J gameplay, F-4S gameplay, it's all honestly the same, except of course the F-4S is a better version of the F-4J. The reality is just that the difference is not that noticeable in terms of the actual playstyle of this aircraft. If you want to be effective, you don't want to be turning that much anyway, you just want to stay fast and go head on with as many people as you can. And that is exactly what I'll be doing in the clip in the background. I'm about to go head on with, I think it's 4 people in a row, and every single one of them is about to get destroyed by my AM-7F. Why? Because I have a very strong pulse Doppler mode paired with a very strong radar missile. And what's perfect about this engagement here specifically is that all these people are way too close to me to be able to effectively notch this radar. As a result, literally every single one of these bozos is getting smited from the atmosphere without really being able to do anything. The only guy who maybe had a chance at evading that missile was that J8, and he could have gone low enough to the deck where the radar would have been confused by the ground, and then the missile would just have slammed into the grass there. But instead he doesn't do that, and he eats my missile right up. Same goes for this MiG-23 MLA, he's just way too close, can't notch, and therefore he perishes to my AM-7F. So in literally less than a minute, I took out a fourth of the enemy team, and all I had to do was click on people going head on with me. Except that's not really true. You see, with IR missiles like the AIM-9L, yes, you can very much just click on someone and it will track and it will hit as long as they don't flare. Radar missiles, though, they're a lot more complicated. Essentially, radar missiles are not just the missiles, you also have to be able to use the radar properly, and that's just something that takes some time and some practice. So if you just bought the F-4S and you're having a bad time in it, consider just going out into a custom battle with a bunch of AI and trying to understand when and when you cannot launch missiles at the enemy. For example, the EJ here is a very easy target. He's higher than me, he's way too close to me to notch my radar, and he is also coming right at me. As a result, very easy kill. This tornado though, not so much. As you can see, I'm failing to get a pulse Doppler lock, but as soon as I switch my radar mode, boom, I have a perfect lock. Now, of course, this radar mode would not work if this guy was close to the ground. In that case, the background clutter would basically make the radar signature unusable, but in this case, it ends up being a perfect splash because he was so high above me. So in essence, if you understand which radar modes work in which scenarios, you'll be able to make the best of your missiles in any given scenario. And of course, that is very important, especially for an aircraft like the F-4S, which basically completely relies on its weapons. Not understanding how to use the radar in the F-4S is kind of like not understanding how to turn fight in a Zero. Luckily though, the F-4S is quite a forgiving aircraft in terms of learning to use the radar, and that's because it gets a very nice helmet-mounted display. Now, in case you don't know, the helmet-mounted display basically allows you to aim both your missiles as well as your radar right where you're looking, which is a really, really nice little gimmick. I don't recommend that you use it all the time, especially on large maps where it really is just nice to use your radar as a way to detect enemies far away. But sometimes, especially within close quarters combat, the helmet-mounted display can be very nice for quickly switching between the targets that you want to actually lock onto. Although, ideally you don't really want to be in close quarters combat using the F-4S. Of course, it's fine if you're continuously going head on, but if you're gonna have to start turn fighting with people, you're kind of already in the wrong position. You see, with the F-4S as well as the F-4J, my opinion is that you should just not turn fight in the first place. I don't mean you shouldn't engage in turn fights when someone else is really forcing you to turn fight, but I mean that if you can avoid it, you should avoid it. It's a Phantom, you're better off just running away and forcing a head-on with the enemy. And that's also what this plane is just good at. So if you can manage to make an enemy head-on with you, that's basically the best thing you can do in the F-4S/the F-4J. And also because of that playstyle and because of the fact that the F-4S is just so reliant on its radar as well as its radar missiles, I personally don't actually carry that many IR missiles. In fact, you might have already noticed here in the background, in basically every clip so far, I carry 5 AM-7Fs, so I carry 5 Sparrows, as well as only 2 IR missiles instead of the 4 IR missiles and the 4 Sparrows. Why? Well, because I find myself running out of the Sparrow more often than I run out of the IR missile, and that's simply because, well, the IR missile is really just a backup weapon. If you have to use either your AIM-9G or your AIM-9H, you have essentially already gotten into a little bit of a wrong position. Is it a terrible thing? No. Are these still fairly okay and fairly usable IR missiles? Absolutely. Do you want to be using them instead of your AIM-7Fs whenever you can? No. In fact, the AIM-7F here is really the star of the show. If you don't have to use the AIM-9s, then don't. Use the 7F instead. Also, you might have noticed that I carried a gun. I think it's honestly a little bit of a dumb idea not to carry the gun. People will complain the whole time that yes, it does technically add a little bit more drag and it makes your plane a little bit slower. It's a Phantom. It doesn't matter. Sure, you will become slightly more maneuverable when you're not carrying the gun pod, but the only vehicles you're going to be outmaneuvering are other Phantoms that are carrying the gun pod. At which point, I mean, what's the point? Because then you're going into a dogfight without a gun. So yes, you're out-turning the enemy, but what are you going to do once you've out-turned the enemy? Run into them? I don't... Yeah, just carry the gun pod, honestly. It's nice to be able to get some extra spare kills with them. If you get a down tier, the gun pod is effectively a very nice secondary backup to your head-on strategy. Because yes, your AM-7Fs are very good in a head-on, but you know, in case you miss, it is quite nice to use the gun. And also kills like that in the F5C right there are also just sometimes nice to get. Just being able to point your nose at someone and blast them with a couple of 20 mils is never a bad thing. So just carry the gun pod, there's no reason not to. Unless of course you want to carry a full bomb load. If you want to carry a full bomb load, then you can't carry the gun. But honestly, I don't think you should be carrying a full set of 13 1,000-pound bombs on this aircraft. And if anything, I think that's actually quite a bad idea. Instead, I recommend that you carry 12 500-pound bombs, because that's effectively just enough to destroy a single base. And what's great about this setup is that you're basically not ditching any of your standard air-to-air weaponry. You can still carry the exact same kit you'd be carrying if you're using this aircraft as a pure fighter. Why is that nice? Well, effectively that means that this plane doesn't really see that much of a performance hit because it's carrying bombs. Again, you shouldn't really be dogfighting in this jet anyway, so carrying the extra bombs really doesn't do that much to put you into a worse position in terms of energy fighting and dogfighting, stuff like that. And because you're still carrying your full set of AM-7Fs, you can still take out plenty of people into a head-on whilst you're rushing towards the closest base. Honestly, out of all the premiums in the game that you can go base bombing with, whilst also trying to be a fighter, I think this one is the best one at that specific job. So again, whether or not you want to go bombing bases is really up to you, but with a set of 12 500-pound bombs, this aircraft actually is a quite capable aircraft as a multi-role fighter. So yeah, in essence, the F-4S is the best Phantom in the US tech tree. Although it certainly isn't the most maneuverable aircraft, you can still get some gun kills with it in a dogfight. Of course, you shouldn't be dogfighting in the first place because, well, you should really be trying to go for head-ons in this aircraft. And if you play this jet well, then you can absolutely dominate the battlefield. Especially in a down tier, this jet is very, very powerful. But it's only very powerful if you understand how to use stuff like the radar as well as the radar missile. So if you don't know how to do that, just take some time to learn those. And I'm confident that once you learn how to make the most out of this airframe and out of these weapons, then you'll end up loving the F-4S. Because quite honestly, it's one of the most fun 11.3 aircraft in the game. And maybe that's just me though, but I personally really like the way this jet plays. Yeah, anyway, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for 10,000 subscribers. I made a Discord server actually to celebrate 10,000 subscribers. If you want to join that Discord server, it's called Brick Squad. I'll link it in the description. So if you want to come talk to me or talk to some other people about War Thunder and perhaps join a squad together, then well, feel free to join that Discord server. In any case, thank you very much for watching, and yeah, goodbye.